What's up, gamers? It's your boy Connor, and today I'm bringing you a re-upload of a video that's like 4 years old because, well, if you go to the original video, you can't hear anything. You can't hear anything. It sounds like this. Ticket to Ride Team Asia is a really great game because you play in teams, it's great, it's awesome. Honestly, this has been bothering me for like a while. Right after I uploaded it, I was like, what did I do? Oh, but I can't re-upload it. I don't know why, but I'm doing it today because I don't know. I don't want to put all this work into all these videos and then just have one dud because I was too lazy to lower the volume of a few sound clips. Hopefully, if you couldn't hear anything I'm saying in those videos, you can hear them now, even if it's a few years too late. In addition to changing that, I've also had to re-record some lines in the video because I actually lost the original audio. I literally like scraped my hard drive looking for those things and they're gone, unfortunately. So the audio is gonna get like hella crisp. Should be fun re-recording lines that I wrote like 4 years ago. We'll see how that goes. They might be really cringe. And last but not least, I originally had Nickelodeon characters like showing how the game worked, and that just hasn't aged particularly well. So I've gone ahead and swapped them out with a mystery cast of characters that you'll see once we get into the video. But for now, that's all I got. I'm working on some stuff behind the scenes. The Root video's coming along. Japan is the next new Ticket video. But yeah, I hope you enjoy. Choo choo! Like and subscribe. Choo choo! Thanks for watching. Choo choo! Bye. Choo choo! Choo choo!
Hello everyone. It seems that I have tested positive for not posting a Ticket to Ride video in a few months, so here it is. I hope you enjoy it.
I never thought that it'd be so simple, but I found a way, and I always...
A concept that I've talked a lot about in the past few videos is how Ticket to Ride expansions generally fall into one of two categories. The first are games that generally stick with the base rules, and then there are games that kind of just go crazy and throw everything out the window. I think that the games that don't really switch up too many things often struggle to find their own identity, and because Ticket to Ride at its core has a really strong base, not changing much about it other than the board makes it difficult for a game to stand out. This isn't to say that these games can't be good, but they have to have a really tight system to make the already existing system better. For example, in my last video, Legendary Asia, the game had a really tight system built around it, but it just didn't wow me or really keep my interest. Team Asia is the opposite of this though. Team Asia is by far the most different Ticket to Ride game in the mainline series. Like the title suggests, you play in teams. Each player gets a partner and shares the same set of colored trains with them. It's worth noting that this is one of 2 Ticket to Ride games that you can play with 6 people. Adding an extra player is huge because honestly you have no idea how many times Ticket hasn't hit the table because 5 people just isn't enough. You actually get a set of 54 trains to play this game with, rather than the usual 45. Each player on a team gets 27 trains. This is an important detail because players can't use each other's trains. Each team also gets 2 of these wooden holders, card holders. This is gonna sound sarcastic, but I promise you it's not. This is like nice production quality. Like, I think this is super cool because it's a weird design thing that you wouldn't normally think about. If you're playing with a teammate, it would be super annoying for 2 people to have to like continuously pick something up and look at it. So when information is being shared, it's really cool that you just have something so that you guys can see it, but the other players cannot. I don't know, I really like these things, and it's a small detail, but I think it adds a lot to the game. The way teams work in this game is very interesting. Each player gets their own turn, like in the regular Ticket to Ride game, but each team plays as one color. Thus, you are essentially one player getting 2 actions a turn. So, admittedly, I don't know if that's a great pitch to convince you why this game is good, because spoiler alert, I like this one. I promise there are rules and stuff that make this more fun than I'm presenting it to be. Saying that like 2 players make up 1, I mean, you still get to play as a player, part of a bigger whole, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna stop talking and just keep going. But At the start of the game, each player gets 5 tickets and must keep 3. To clarify, each player, not each team, gets 5 cards. Teammates are not allowed to communicate with each other about tickets that they have. After players have decided what tickets that they're going to keep, each player reveals one of their route cards and places it on the wooden card holder. The other 2 cards remain for each player to only have knowledge of. Although this information can be revealed throughout the game through a new action, players cannot communicate directly to their teammate about the card's contents. I can see this as a point of criticism in the game, as you and your teammate can take completely different tickets. However, 6 players sharing 3 different colors mean that there will only be 3 sets of trains on the board. Other games like this are Switzerland and Nordic countries, which both feature smaller and more condensed boards. Team Asia is similar to these boards, as it is smaller and more condensed than a board like America, meaning your room for error is much smaller when choosing tickets.
Can your science explain
that Ticket to Ride Team Asia has a more condensed board than Ticket to Ride America?
Yes! Yes, it can!
So, to be completely honest, I wasn't sure that the Team Asia board was actually smaller than the American board. It made sense to me in my head, but I wanted to be sure. And if I was a viewer, I wouldn't just want to take this random dude's word for it with no proof as to what I was saying was true. So I decided to do some digging and try to actually figure out if this board is smaller than most boards, or more specifically the America map. So the first thing I did is try to count the number of spaces on the board. I went into Illustrator and tried to mark which places I had already counted, but my numbers were super whack, so I went to Reddit and asked anyone if they knew the exact count. So apparently it turns out that people don't spend hours counting the amount of spaces on Ticket to Ride boards. So that kind of sucks. This user gave me a good suggestion of what I was really kind of already doing on just the physical board. So I ended up doing exactly what he suggested, and after a few hours of number crunching, I eventually came to some pretty crazy conclusions. The American board has 309 total spaces and an average route length of around 3.3. The Team Asia board has a total of 289 spaces and an average length route of roughly 2.2. Now obviously the amount of spaces on the board isn't that big of a difference, but what is a big difference is the average length of a route. In Team Asia, you and your teammate are playing as one color. You also get to share some of your cards together. I'll get around to exactly how that works in a bit, but just keep in mind that you do have shared resources. Meaning that on average in Team Asia, if you have a card in your hand, your teammate can take a matching card of that color, and then you can take the 2-length route. Essentially meaning each turn you can hypothetically get one route. In America, you have to spend a turn or two taking cards, and then a turn taking that route. Keep in mind, getting 3 of a kind is more difficult than getting 2 of a kind. It seems really simple to say that on paper, playing as 2 players makes you more efficient than playing as 1, but the math here also proves this to be true. Sorry I took the scenic route to get to the point, but the point of all of this being that you are able to course correct your mistakes a lot more easily in this game. Thus, at the start of the game, not being able to communicate around the routes that you're taking still does have elements of luck, but since the board is built around that fact, it is very unlikely that you and your teammate will get completely screwed out of the game. So, I should probably actually start talking about how to play the game. 6 minutes into the video. Connor! Taking train cards is different in this game. When a player takes a train card, one of them goes to that player's hand, and the other goes to that player's team's wooden stand. The cards in the wooden stand are for both players to be able to use when claiming routes. Players get to choose where each card they have chosen goes to, however, if a player picks a locomotive card, it must go to the wooden stand. I really like this mechanic because it allows for some pretty interesting gameplay like I've shown earlier in this video, where one player can take the ticket, and by ticket I mean train card, and then your teammate can take a route. It just allows for some really cool, aggressive, quick play, and I find it really interesting, and this isn't scripted, so it's extremely difficult to continue talking like this. Next up is sharing information with your teammate. As an action, instead of one of the 3 usual standard actions a player is able to take, a player may place 2 of their route cards onto the wooden stand for their teammate to see. This is a very common first move, as it helps players get on the same page about game plans. This is the one game mechanic in this game I'm a little iffy about. I'm a little biased as I love games where you have a limited amount of information and have to essentially solve a puzzle through weird ways of communication. I've even made a game about this my freshman year of college. I think there needs to be a way for players to be able to share information like this, as without it the game would be unplayable, but I just wish that there was more of a cost to it. Route cards are by far the most important part of the game, and not having all of the information you need to win is an exciting game mechanic. Being able to essentially reveal your opening hand of route cards turn 1 feels a bit lame. I feel like there are easy fixes to this as well. Instead of revealing 2 route cards, you only reveal 1. Or both players on a team sacrifice their turns to reveal 2 total route cards from either of their hands. 1 player each, or 2 from 1 player. I can't say that these would 100% make the game better, as I've never actually playtested them, but I feel they are something to try out.
When a player draws route cards, they draw 4 and they must keep 1. They cannot show their teammate what cards they have drawn. After they've decided what cards they're going to keep, they can place one of those cards on their wooden card holder to share that information with their teammate. Overall, not a huge amount of changes to this classic ticket mechanic have occurred, but I also wonder how it would play out without being able to just place one of your cards down for both players to see. I imagine it would add tension to the game, not just being able to share information so easily, but I have not playtested this, so what do I know? The last mechanic I'd like to go over are the tunnel routes, which make a return in this game.
You agreed to stay away! I lied.
The tunnel routes in this game are only length 1 or 2, and they have one small change. The number on the tunnel is how many cards the player must draw, instead of the normal 3 to see how many extra cards that player must play. These numbers are usually around 5 or 6. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous, but cards can be played from both players on a team's hand, as well as their mutual hand. I'd assume when you do the math, it'd probably be similar probabilities as one player drawing 3 of these. Now, there aren't many tunnels on the board, and most of them are only length 1 or 2, so I don't really have an issue with this, as I didn't really have an issue with them in the first place. I think they're pretty harmless here.
So, time to talk about the main part of the game. A variable so complex that not even my galaxy-sized brain can figure out, can wrap my head around, and that is the human condition.
Playing in teams is either your favorite thing in the world or your least favorite thing in the world. In the case of Team Asia, it makes the highs of Ticket go even higher and the lows go even lower. It basically just exaggerates every part of the game. First, let's start with the positives of playing in teams. The biggest positive of playing in teams is that you get to make big brain plays with your teammate. Being able to take 2 turns essentially for the price of 1 makes the game much more aggressive and exciting. Since each player has their own hand as well, it makes each player feel like they are really playing the game, opposed to playing on a team when 2 players just control 1 hand of cards. The second part of playing in teams is that it helps with downtime during the game. One of Ticket's biggest weaknesses is its downtime. In a game like Catan, there's not much downtime since players are constantly trading. In Ticket though, it's difficult not to get bored if one player is taking a super long time. Having another player to strategize with during this downtime makes it go a lot faster and allows you to think out loud rather than inside your head.
On the flip side of this case though, having a min-maxer on a team could make the game go slower than it normally would if they were not playing on a team. Now not only does Chad have to think for himself, but also for someone else, and he has to explain all his ideas to another person. If this someone else in question isn't the kind of person to tell someone to just shut up and do something, well, you might be in for a long and interactive night. Now you might be asking, how are both of these outcomes possible? How can playing in a team both speed up and slow down the game? And the answer lies in human behavior. It really all comes down to how you work as a person. The beauty of board games lies in its interactions. The way that you play the game changes when you're sitting down physically next to another player. The face-to-face human interaction that happens at the table is something that cannot be replicated in an online video game setting. Whether or not this makes Ticket better or worse is really up to who you're playing with. There's this saying, don't hate the player, hate the game, and it's pretty accurate. But in this case, I don't think it's the game's fault if the people that you're playing with suck and make the game not fun. So
I can't I mean, I enjoy it. I like playing in teams, but I mean, Big Brain Chad over here probably doesn't. So I don't know, Chief. Ticket to Ride Team Asia is the most different of any Ticket to Ride game. I think Team Asia plays into what board games do best more than any other ticket game. The ways that players interact in this game is completely different than any of the other boards. Teamwork with and against other players makes the game feel more communicative instead of just 4 players playing on one board but not really interacting. Sure, you can block, but I think adding teams adds a much more political aspect to the game, which was lacking. As per usual, I'm going to be rating how much I would like to play this game on a given day, and how I'd rate it in terms of design. I love Ticket to Ride Team Asia, and it's one of the most fun boards to play in my opinion. Fun doesn't always equal mechanical genius though, but I don't think that's the point of Team Asia. The quote that Alan R. Moon put on the Days of Wonder website sums this up perfectly. Alan writes, "My friends Ken and Martha were playing as a team. Ken is a very conservative player, always choosing to take the safest path, while Martha is a devil-may-care risk taker. On her last turn, Martha declared out loud that she wanted to take tickets. Ken said that would be awfully risky. Martha did it anyway, and had to take a ticket she could not complete, losing them the game, which summed up the game for me now and then." I think this quote really shows that Team Asia was never really about the hard math of Ticket to Ride. It's about being with your friends and having fun, which is honestly ironic considering it's paired with one of the most calculated and mathematical boards. On a given day, I'd say I'd want to play this game generally more than the regular Ticket to Ride games just because I have so much fun with it. In terms of mechanical genius, it's definitely hard to place. I think the game is designed well, other than a few flaws with some of the actions. For example, how easy it is to share information with your partner, I think brings down the tension in the game in a significant way. I do think though that the board is designed really well around team play, as well as the other actions playing very well into the mechanics and the board design. With the tunnels, although I don't think they subtract from the game, I also don't really think they add too much either. There's only a few of them on the board, and they all seem to be around choke points. I would have preferred maybe 2 single routes going in and out of one city, so if you really wanted to block another team you could, but you wouldn't have to sit there and flip 6 cards. I don't mind them being there, it isn't a deal breaker or anything, but I certainly do not look at them and think that chess just got invented again. Anyway, in conclusion, I'm going to be putting Ticket to Ride Team Asia in the S tier. Now, although I think that, yeah, some small things could be changed with this board, I just have so much fun playing this game that they don't really matter to me. Team Asia excels at truly feeling like an expansion to Ticket to Ride, and not just a lame gimmick or a new board. Like I said before, it's not that these small changes can't be good, but I don't think they really keep my attention as much as a game like Team Asia does. With that, another Ticket to Ride game has been dissected by me. I hope you all enjoyed, and hope to see you in my next video, which I actually have no idea what it will be. Haha.